Hey everybody, welcome to Geek Rant. And tonight, Toby and I are going to be talking about the new film Prey. Hey everybody, welcome to Geek Rant. We're going to be talking about the new film that's come out on Disney Plus to us. I know it's on Hulu on some other services. I've watched it on Disney Plus.
Yeah, me too.
Prey, which is a film that's it's set 300 years ago in sort of Native American nation Comanche. I think it's called Comanche or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and basically, Prey is a prequel to the Predator films, and it's about a young woman called Naru who really wants to become a hunter like her brother. And when the sort of danger, this mysterious danger, threatens their camp, she sets out and tries to protect her people. But she comes up against a highly evolved alien predator who has obviously got an arsenal of advanced weaponry at his fingertips. Now,
Yeah,
obviously,
he looks a bit
we're going
different,
to
doesn't
be,
he?
he does, yeah. We're going to be talking about the film. There's no, this is a spoiler alert. There's no holds barred
Spoilers.
here. We're going to be talking about all the film, the plot and everything. So, don't turn off if you don't want to hear
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Watch the film, then come back.
Watch the film, come back. Yes. But first, let's play a little trailer so you can see a snippet of it, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Why do you want to hunt?
Because you all think that I can't. I saw a sign in the sky. I'm ready.
Maui, Nita.
There's something out there. I'm coming with you.
You can't.
I'm trying to protect you.
Protect me from what? It's time.
It knows how to hunt. I know how to survive. Whatever did this, I can kill it.
So that was the trailer, and to get straight into it, I was actually quite impressed with this film. It was funny because I hadn't really heard much about it until a week or
No,
two before it came out and trailers and things. They kept it quite quiet, didn't they? Really? Because
I'd seen the trailer kicking around for a few weeks, so I was
yes,
kind of aware of it. I
yeah,
think, yeah, because I've read some stories set in this world, in the Predator
right,
world,
yeah,
and I kind of saw it and thought, oh, that reminds me of one of the stories, but it isn't the one I read. It, but the fact that
mm,
actually there's quite a lot of literature out there for the Alien and the Predator world,
yes,
taking lots of different
yeah, yeah,
stories in different directions, which is some of it's really good actually.
yes,
But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
that's sidetrack.
No, absolutely. But obviously, this is part of that wider franchise, isn't it? You know, obviously, there was the 1987 Predator, which had Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, and was actually just a great film. You know, it's a very simple plot. You know, some special forces
Marines
dropped into the jungle, and they basically have to try and fight a predator and survive, basically. And
and I think it's a similar premise here, isn't it? To a certain extent,
it is.
Predator dropped into a different environment, with some other sorts of agendas going on that we can talk about later. But this time, this Predator that's turned up, he is slightly different than the ones we've seen before.
Yes,
because he's not wearing as much armor, and his mask is quite different. You know, he doesn't have the cannon, the blast cannon. He has like darts that shoot, like metal dart.
He still has that 3-point laser guided system, doesn't he? You know, and well, obviously this is like 300 years before, you know.
But we don't know. He's still on a spaceship, isn't he?
He is.
So I don't. It's almost as if, do you not think that maybe he has dressed down for the occasion because he knows there's nothing that can challenge him? I think maybe it might be because that makes it more challenging.
I know exactly what you mean, because if you've got a spaceship and you can travel from another solar system, you would have more energy type weapons,
armor,
wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You'd have better armor. You'd have more. He had that thing on his arm, didn't he? Again, which he presses the keys, and also he set that trap, didn't know, that thing down, which fired up those 3 little hovering, explosions. But they certainly tried to make him seem more primitive, didn't they? In what he was wearing, his mask, exactly. It looked almost like it was made of bone or something, whereas the original Predator was very much a metal, super mask. And for me, I also thought about it really felt like when they took the mask off in the original Predators. In the second one, Danny Glover, he had to take these little. The creature was lying on the floor, wasn't he? And he had to take these little things off. Like it was almost like it was a breathing apparatus. That's how I sort of saw it, that it was helping him breathe. But this one wasn't even like that, was it? It wasn't.
No,
it was just it just sort of kind of came off on and off.
You could see his jaws underneath here. I think that there was a relationship that they struck here with. He had the skull. It was obviously something they'd made, but it looked like bone, although I don't think it was bone. He took it off, but in the first instance, he fights a wolf, and he melts the skin off the wolf's head once he's killed it, and he takes the skull.
That's right.
And for me, that was a moment where he was comparing himself to the wolf, because he had the wolf skull on, and he had the wolf skull that he then gathered. You didn't see him do that with anything else, really, not to the same extent. So I think that there was a connection between the wolf, hunter, and him.
Yeah, but if you remember throughout a lot of the Predator films, they're about taking trophies. They collect I always think of that really great bit where they go in Predator 2 and he goes into a ship and you see like an alien skull, and you see some other really sort of unusual creature skulls. I always love things like that. And I know he did it with the wolf, didn't he? He didn't do it. He didn't seem to do it much with the others, but we did. Then again, he could have done. We just don't know, whether he did or not. Well, he wasn't anything hanging on his belt, was there?
I felt that moment was a bit symbolic. I just felt it was symbolic, and I think there was a number of symbolic actions within the show which gave it a poignancy, which I think that it achieved through the kind of connection to the primitive that it retained throughout the whole film.
Yes. It was very much trying to make it much more of a primitive version, wasn't it, of Predator? Not so. I mean, the plot, like we said earlier, is very simple, and I quite like that about it, because some of the other Predator films and things, they've made them quite, there's a lot of running about, got to get this thing, get that, and shoot this and do that, and get in this base. And for me, it was actually quite nice just to go back to quite a raw, basic plot, where it's the man against the monster, or the woman against the monster, and
it was only an hour and a half long. Only an hour and a half long.
Yeah.
So they had a very sort of limited time scale to fit it all in.
Yeah.
So they definitely had an agenda. Let's just make this classic length with this simple plot. It's a fight, isn't it? A fight.
Exactly.
You can do that with Predator. That's one of the nice things about this franchise and the stories that go around it. It is just about the hunt. And at the end of the day, that's still to a certain extent within us all. At some point in back in our past, we were that hunter. I think it taps into that. I think that sci-fi often can piggyback on those primitive storylines and kind of bring them forward. Bring them forward and highlight them in this way. And I think that I'm not trying to make Predator seem highbrow or anything. I'm just saying perhaps it really does tap into something raw, doesn't it? That we all
it does.
Kind of enjoy.
I think that's what when you get a successful film or something, it is partly about either like that, tapping into a primal instinct within us, that makes us react to it and think and feel the pressure of the situation. And I think that's very much the case. His face was very different though compared to other sort of Predators. I mean, when you looked at the original classic, first, it was like a completely different species, and perhaps there are.
The jaw was much wider, wasn't it? Longer.
It was, wasn't it? And it was more pronounced. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was quite weird and
similar shape, but very different.
Just the look of his eyes and his top of his head. It wasn't anywhere near the same sort of creature. No. It was like, well, perhaps there are different species of predator that you just, or could they, in 300 years, could they evolve? It's a weird one. Yeah, I doubt it.
I wonder if they kind of fixed on this mask first and then had to solve the problem of it being a primitive mask, bone mask. Where would the mouth go and how would that fit in? Yeah. And did it look stupid with the mask coming down and then not having anything underneath here? And they needed to, I don't know. I think that's maybe that's a directorial choice or a production choice based around design rather than narrative potentially.
Yes. Yeah. But it was interesting that they took it very. He looked quite different in that sense, didn't he? As the monster,
Yeah, I thought it looked fantastic. I thought
it was good. It was
very
all good, Yeah, definitely. It was only that I sort of thought to myself, well, that's really a different animal now. He's almost like a different thing. I know he's got the same sort of attitude and equipment, but I thought the some of his equipment was quite good. I liked the shield thing that popped out and sort of spun round, and he was they were shooting him, and was doing things like that. The whole I was a little bit with the fact that she had worked out, when the red dots are there, the things fire to it. I was a little bit. Would she have been able to work that out? Would she have been able to suss out the technology from seeing it once? Maybe. I mean, that was how her whole way of killing him at the end, wasn't it? Getting the mask, putting it somewhere, and getting him trapped in that bog so that she could, shoot him.
I think she was meant to be smart, wasn't she? Rather than strong.
Yes. Yeah.
And I quite liked that about her as her character. Yeah. They didn't try to create her in the vision of a man. They created her in the vision of a woman, being a strong hunter.
Trying to be a hunter, yeah.
Yeah, she used her wits, her agility, and her brains to beat the Predator, which
absolutely,
was perfectly fine in my mind. I think that fit in perfectly fine. I didn't want to see.
I think so too.
Yeah, I didn't want to see her stand up and fight him 1-to-1, you know, and survive hits, you know, because this is massive creatures. She's just going to be killed by this if he hits her too much.
Well,
you know,
he just hit that bear once, didn't he? Hit that bear once and killed it. Do you know what I mean? They are incredibly strong. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger couldn't even. You know, there's a bit where he gets battered about by him, doesn't he, and smacked about. And there was at the very end when she sort of confronted him and she's jumped on him a couple of times, and you know, there was a bit where he does hit her, and I thought, that probably would have just taken
he flies across the floor.
Not that it's anything to do with being a man or a woman. That was more a case of if the Predator had hit anyone like that, that probably would have killed them. Do you know what I mean? I think he hit it with the shield, and it was like, but the rest of that, I liked what they were trying to do. You know, she was trying to think of a way. You know, she could see that he's only interested in the predator, killing the predators, you know, and that the prey are sort of left to one side.
Yeah, she figures out, doesn't she, that the blood cools when they take the medicine. You know, so she says this a couple of times, I think, it's to cool the blood, you know, when they get a fever coming on from an injury. And she then realizes when she sees the Predator ignore someone who's taken this medicine, and she figures it out. Now, it was interesting because earlier on in the film, she gets caught up in the bog and covered in the mud, which is again a direct reference to Arnie coating himself in mud. In fact, there's a bit where the Predator comes out, isn't there? The Predator comes out of the bog looking like Arnie. I thought there was some really nice little references.
You like that
little
film.
I did. I just thought that it was a nice little nod.
And you see, I didn't actually place that when I saw her go in the bog. I was watching it with my wife, and I said to Joe, "That's going to be useful later." You know,
that's what I thought. We all thought that, didn't we?
Yeah, that's going to be useful later. You know, that bog. You know. And you know, it was a way of keeping him there, wasn't it?
And I think it was kind of ironic, and I smiled internally when the Predator rose out of the bog, like Arnie does in the thing with and it's like, get some mud this time.
You
know. No, she didn't need the bog because she figured out that the blood cooled with that. And that was a little bit suspicious because it happened straight away, and medicine like that would take time to react. But these things. But no, I thought that was quite interesting. They were looking at the little devices within the film to try and facilitate a victory for them against the Predator.
Yeah, this is part of the problem with having such a powerful foe, and especially in a time period where you don't have any real major weapons, you know, to try and defeat him with, you know, and I suppose she ends up using his own weapons against him, you know, and that's the way to do it, isn't it? I always sort of think, cool, the Predator's pretty bloody indestructive. You know, there's a bit, and the brother, I think it is her brother, isn't it?
We'll talk about the brother in a minute, because I think he's a very interesting part within the story.
But there's a bit where he plunges that spear, he grabs the spear off him, doesn't he, and plunges it through him, and I was like, holy, you know, that's like, he gets his arm cut off, he's still going.
Brilliant,
you know.
scene, I did think the Predator should have reacted a bit more to the damage being sustained.
Yeah,
I do too. And took it a bit.
He just sort of just kept going, didn't he?
He should have. But all in all, the slow-mo on that shot where he thrusts the spear through his body is just spot on.
He does that jump, doesn't he? Jumps up. And
he does that jump off the horse. It looks really cool. I think it was nice because for me, I was going into this film kind of worried that it was going to be a totally kind of the way that the male characters in films these days, they're so kind of put upon or made to look stupid. Just sort of over level the playing field for some of these things. But I just thought it was their relationship, the brother and sister in this, was just really, really good. I felt like the boy, he was trying to give her opportunities to be a hunter. You know, and he was the one kind of facilitating her empowerment.
He was supportive, wasn't he? The other tribes people were negative, weren't they? There's a bit where she's set upon and that sort of thing, and you know, it shows that she's trying to struggle to get to being part of this group, you know.
I mean, obviously back 300 years ago, you didn't have very many female warriors, did you? So you know, you can understand their reaction to that whole situation. But I felt like the brother who, so I mean, the female is Amber Mid Thunder. That's her real name. The female lead, and Naru, and Tabi, is it Tabi? Tabby or something like that, is Dakota Beavers. So they're both of kind of South American or American origins. They kind of been correctly, you feel like they're correctly cast in a way to play these roles. It's not an overly white person kind of browned up to play the role, you know. But so that felt good.
Don't say that.
Well, you know what I mean, like back in the old days, they would have done that, wouldn't they? You know, like referencing some of the old classic westerns where they'd have a white person playing an Indian character. You know, you look back at it now, it's terrible.
Gone are those days.
Gone are those days. Well, largely, but but I just thought that was good. They had a real understanding. I thought he was excellent because he didn't overdo it. He was just very calm a lot of the time, and when he dies, spoilers, you know, you just feel like he was giving her the opportunity to kill the predator through
exactly
you know?
And it was a heroic deed as
himself.
Well. It was a heroic deed. He did sacrifice himself.
Absolutely.
He was a very strong character. I think you're right. There's been some denigration of male characters, and you know, to level things up a bit. But these were both equally good, powerful characters, weren't they?
They were, and it was brilliant.
And that's worked really well, didn't it? He did sacrifice himself for her because he said, "Oh, I'm now the predator." You know, he's seeing me as the threat. You know, go. You know, and even that bit, you know, the reason why that little skull was on his thing was so he could grab the skull and stack it in his leg. You know, so there was those little bits lined up to be used.
I tell you, that's why I mentioned the skull earlier, because that is the bit at the end where he digs it into his leg. It gives her the opportunity. He has turned into, he's then become the wolf, the hunter, by taking the skull mantle. You see, that's what he's done. He's grabbed it, and there's that kind of there is. It's good that they managed to put in that type of symbolism in the film. It
was a good moment, a really nice moment, because you thought he was totally dead, and then suddenly, and he's turning around to get her, and suddenly he saves her a bit, and you know. It was a good expression on his face as well, wasn't it? It's like, you know, how he did it.
Yeah, considering, I mean, he's relatively inexperienced. He's a musician, and the girl's also relatively inexperienced. So,
and they both carried it very well, didn't they?
Yeah. So is the director, and I don't know what I can say, Dan Trachtenberg, and he's done some TV. He's done a film. I can't remember what that was called now.
It was 10 Cloverfield, wasn't it?
Yeah, 10 Cloverfield Lane. He did that, which I quite enjoyed that. He's a young director, that's just sort of up and coming, and he works in TV and film, but he's not very experienced. But I still feel like it was handled in a very competent way. Didn't try and overdo it. You know, didn't try and overdo it. I think
what was also nice was we got a bit of there was some nice sort of scenery. I don't know if that's the right sort of word, but you know, there was some landscape views. They made it feel a bit more epic of that time. You know, I liked that whole sort of thing. the arrival of the Predator was a little bit understated. It didn't like a massive crash or anything like that. You know, he just turned up.
What did you think about the Europeans, the French peering?
I thought, you know, that might have been the only thing that was a slight statement, you know, of colonization and taking on, you know. But to be honest with you, they were in that time period. That was a fact of what happened in those times, you know.
And all the buffalo being skinned was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, it was interesting to see, but it was drawing direct relationship to the fact that the Predator skins his prey. So
but
when you
didn't she say that the French had done it?
The French did it. The French did it because they find the cigarette by the buffalo. It was interesting because in the original films, obviously, a predator skins his prey and hangs them up. You know, he takes the spine. And so there's a direct relationship between the skinning of the buffalo and the prey. And for a second, when you see them, you think, did the predator do this to these creatures?
I did.
Did you not really?
I did originally. I thought, did the predator? What the hell? He did it to. I did think to myself, how did they do that to 50 buffalo all at the same time? You know what I mean? Because there was like, when it panned away, there was like 50 buffalo.
Apparently, this is. I know. And I said, I looked at my wife, because I was watching it with my wife, and I was saying, did they used to do? And Joe was saying, yes, they used to skin fields full of buffalo and just leave the meat. I know. And it was interesting because then later on, it's true. And then later on, the predator comes up to the buffalo and picks up the cigar that's left there.
That's right.
So the connection is the French or the Europeans, or however you want to look at it. They were they the monsters skinning those animals? You know, there's kind of like there are definitely things sort of playing in the background. I thought it was an interesting idea, not necessarily that well executed, but I thought it was quite, a nice little sort of play.
What they were trying to do, what they were trying to symbolize with it. No, that's interesting. I was when I first saw it, I was like, hang on, did the Predator do that, or was that, but then like you say, then they pick up the cigarette button and it's like, right, okay, that's obviously, someone else has done that. But the whole European thing didn't really bother me at all. It wasn't
a bit stupid,
it wasn't like they were shoving it down. It wasn't like they were shoving it down your throat, how bad they are, taking over, and all this sort of thing. They were just there, and then they got massacred, So it was kind of, it was nice to have a bit of cannon fodder.
They were aware of the Predator, weren't they? Exactly. They became aware of the Predator, and they needed to be that, so that then they would take up arms, because the Predator classically doesn't necessarily attack people without weapons, or creatures without weapons. So, it
wants to beat. It wants to beat the top of the chain food, doesn't it? It wants to beat the top, and so it wants to kill the next best.
They drop predators down on the earth for holiday.
Yes, that's right. They do. It's like a training camp,
hunting holiday.
Exactly. Safari. I mean, the other one that I thought would that be accurate? Is now I'm not sure it was a lion, or whether it was just a big cat, whether it was some sort of But I wondered about that. Is that actually true to the era? And what, did they have lions in that part of the world?
I did think about looking it up. They called it a lion, didn't they? But they definitely have big cats over there. They've got big cats. But I don't know. Have they got lions?
But like pumas.
Don't know.
They had like pumas.
They got pumas and all those sort of big cats. Like no leopards.
But that was definitely a
lioness. Was it
like a? Yeah, but lions don't. I don't think they climb trees. It gets up on that tree. I don't think they actually do that.
It was probably just a big cat, like a puma or something.
A big cat. Yeah. But that again, that was interesting. She faced that down, and she managed to hit it, didn't she? But she fell. And he kind of,
Yeah.
her brother sort of said to her at the campfire, didn't he? I did it, not you, sort of thing. And that was like, oh, hang on. But then later he admitted, actually you'd wounded it. And
She had injured it.
She'd injured it, and I sort of finished it off, So
yeah,
he could see she had worth, So I when I sort of compare it to some of the other Predator films, I actually rate this one quite highly. Obviously the original is the best. That goes down as an Arnie classic. Predator 2, I do always really enjoy it. But when you watch it, sometimes I do feel sometimes it's a bit shoddy around the edges, and
it is a little
bit gory.
Danny Glover's great though.
Danny Glover's plays the same character.
It's gory.
There's
some really early on in it. There's
yes, there is. There's some
early on.
But I think because it's was it a 90s film? Probably.
I think so.
And we watched it when we were a bit younger. We sort of tolerated a lot of the sort of more crappy bits about it. But then, I actually quite enjoyed the Predator, the one which they were put on that planet. The one where they were put on the planet, and they had
the guy at the
and...
piano was in it. What's his name?
Yes, Adrian Brody. So, but I think I preferred this one to that one.
Me too.
This is
100%.
This is close to beating Predator 2 now for me.
It doesn't quite reach Predator 2 for me, just because
doesn't quite. No, you're right. There's Danny Glover in it, who always puts in a good performance, isn't he? As a bit of a,
he's brilliant.
It's when he's desperate and he's like trying to sort of get it and so on.
He's very visceral, isn't he? He's kind of very, you look at him, he takes so much in. He's so full on. And there's some other good sort of supplementary characters in that as well, isn't there? I think that's potentially one of the things that Prey suffers from, is that the two main characters are really strong, but it feels like there could have been, a third party, someone else who gets involved, who could have been an interesting character, but there isn't really. I mean, some of the. There are some other
you could say the dog was quite good. I quite liked
the dog ended up not having much of a role in it, did he? In the end,
he helped.
He got a bit left out.
Help her at the end. He did help her at the end.
Oh, you see, I've forgotten that bit already. It was a shame that. But I just felt the dog should have died. Really. Take that bit out.
You're all heart. You are. You're all heart.
No, but
I mean, obviously,
that's maybe the one thing.
The crossover films with the aliens, I thought were really pants.
You see, I quite enjoy those. I quite sit down. They're not as good of films as those, but I kind of rewatched those quite a bit actually. I quite like the whole setting, the Alien versus Predators thing. I quite like the one where they're down on the planet, down on the Earth. I thought that's.
Is that the one where they go down into like a pyramid that's in the ice?
No, not that one. I prefer the other one where they're in the town and the aliens have come into the town and the predators come down to clear away the aliens. That one's quite good. I quite like that one. The pyramid one's probably the worst one out of all the films.
I think I keep thinking about that one. That was a bit lame.
It is pretty bad. They try to do a lot with that and kill off a lot of characters very early on, which was very disappointing. But it is about having the characters. I think that everybody has to look back, and if you want evidence that having strong characters makes a film, you look at Aliens. And if you look at this sort of film and you look at all the characters in Aliens, Hicks, Vasquez, Hudson, all those guys. And you just needed maybe just one or two more in this Prey film to give it that lift, a bit more kind of connection for people. I know what you mean.
I think it'd be interesting to see what their sort of budget was, because obviously it probably wasn't a very high budget film.
No,
but they pulled it off really well, and I think they didn't try to do too much, which I think is sometimes a good way to play it. They always think they've got to go bigger, better, more and more, and sometimes actually just returning it to something quite simple. It's a battle between and like you say, the sort of instinct, the animal instinct that's within there, really came out and was a good portrayal. So I definitely recommend this to people. I think this is really worth seeing. And
for me, hour and a half of kind of just pure fight.
Nice. Exactly. Very escapism, isn't it? It's you can just sit and watch it and forget about everything else, and not feel appalled by they're trying to make a statement about something, or they're trying to sort of this, that, and the other. It's just an action film, isn't it? A good old kind of fashioned action film, which is great. Want to see a bit more of that sort of thing.
Definitely. When you've got strong male and a strong female character working together, that's what we want to see, isn't it?
Yeah,
we want equality. Equality.
Yes, equality. Yeah. You don't have to put one down to make the other better. They can both be at the same time.
Yeah, that's what we want.
Both be powerful characters.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well,
no, I totally agree.
We just put the world to rights. Excellent. No, but I think that this will lead on to another Predator film.
Yes,
I think that I think that it's done quite well so far, this film, and I think that it will. The opportunities that are now presented for films like this through streaming platforms, I think will facilitate another Predator film, which is great, because I want the Predator and the Alien franchise to go on as long as it can. Because listen, as far as I'm concerned, all that stuff is great. I just love the escapism of these worlds, and the fact that this is going to do well and it's presented well, then it's great. It's great for the future. Because if this had come out and it was really crap, we'd all be going, people wouldn't want to see another Predator film, although I would.
No,
but,
what are they doing?
Yeah.
No, it was really good. Well worth a watch if you're
definitely
bored one evening. Good. Anyway, well, I think that pretty much sums it up, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks very much to listening to us tonight. Obviously, we'd love people to subscribe and like and comment. What were your thoughts on the film? Did you like it as much as we did, or did you think it was total rubbish? Let us know. It'd be great to hear from you. Anyway, thanks Toby for joining me tonight, and see you soon.